Yeah, good evening, everyone. Last class we completed the unit 5. Now we start with the sixth onwards. The topic is working with the files and directories in PHP. How to work with files and directories in PHP. We can now see that our topics are so understanding the files and directories. What is a file? What is the attribute of file? What is the directories? So how to open and close a file. So what are the file modes? Okay, and how to use the open file function file. Okay, how to close a file. So how to return back file. So these are the topics of the PHP. So we'll discuss one by one. So understanding what are the files and directories in here. So basically, what is a file is a it is becoming increasingly common to store data in files. So that is MS, SQL, MySQL, and Access. Generally, these two are databases. In this database, we generally store the data. We store the data. Yeah, Srikanth is according to Srikanth. Is it audible to you?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Are you which semester you are?
Sixth, sir.
It's class only, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay, okay. These many, I mean, uh, so many classes, no? Playing. Okay, okay. Now see, how what are these MySQL and Access? These are the database. These are the database. So by using the database, what we do, we store the data. We store the data. Okay. Now the question is, there are other type of other applications also there which will store the files. So what the kind of application there? There are Word documents there. So the spreadsheets are there. Some log files are there, and some image files are there. So basically, there are Word document and spreadsheets. These areas also we can store the files. Okay. And in MySQL and Access applications, by using this database, also we can store the data. Okay. Keep in mind. Now, the question is to retrieve information from the database. So we require a special query language. Okay. Data is there in the database. This is the database. Okay. This is the database. The database data is there. If you want to access this data, you have to apply one query. Query means what? A question. You have to apply one question. That query technical here called one language. Okay. So that we are calling can be MySQL, other type of language. So where the so that query language will be used to retrieve data from the database. Are you able to follow, right? So whereas files are example, there are flat, so which typically appears as a stream of text. Okay. Stream of text. Now when working with the files, what we have to do you have to read or write two operations. Read or write. So the concept here is what? When you are working with the files. When you are working with the files, you have to read or write. These are two operations we perform. Reading means from the file, content is there, you read. This is read operation. Write operation means what? So we have to insert content into the file. Means you have to enter the content into the file. That kind of operation is called write operation. Okay, this is with respect to files. This is with respect to files. Okay. Now, uh, now after that, what you have to do? So in order to read a file's content, first we need to do what? First we have to open file. First we need to open the file and read the contents. Okay. And after that, we have to close the file. Okay. Now understand the sequence. If you want to read any data from the file, if you want to write any data from the file, first you have to open the file. After that, you have to perform read or write operation. And after that, you have to close. So this is the sequence of working with the files concept. Okay. Now, in order to write a file, that also we must have program. Okay. And the data is encrypted. Okay. And the file must be closed. Okay. When you want to read file from the read data from the file, when you have to write something to a file, first you have to open the file. Okay. First you have to open the file where it is. You have to open the file. Yes, you open the file, then you have to close the file. Okay. This is a sequence of performing the operations inside the operations on the file. Okay. Understood, Srikanth? Get out on. Now you see in PHP 5, okay, there's some built-in wrapper functions are there to automate the opening and closing of the file. Okay. So what the PHP is offering for us, there are some functions. There are some functions, built-in functions are there. These functions automate, okay, automate the opening and closing of the files. So in the files concept, what we did do one program manually. We did written a program and we executed the program manually. But in PHP, what is going? It is opening using these some wrapper class functions and it automating the opening and closing of the files functionality. So this is the advantage with the PHP. Yes, you can understand. Now after that, what are the attributes of the file? What are the attributes of the file? Can you check it? Attributes of the file. One is size. Let's see, one is size. So here function is what? File size is a function. One is size here. Attributes. Okay. Now you can see this program here. You observe this program. Now this is PHP opening and closing. This is okay. Here we are writing what function file size. Here for this function, you are giving input. So this is the file name. This is the extension. Okay. So this way you can find the size of the file. Size of the file. Next was history of the file. history of the file. So you can use the functions, what the history of the file. That means when it is accessed or when it is modified or when it is changed. These kind of history, if you wanted to know, you can use the functions called, you know, file, file a time, okay, file, file and time, okay, file c time, like this. These are the functions can be used to know the history of the file, to know the history of file. I can see it. You can see this program here. See file and time, file and time. Okay, you see here the last access on, last access done when this is the date, the month of year. You see it. Now the time see last modified on date, the month of year. You see this. Okay. Now this is the way you can come to know the history of the files. Okay. So what we understood? One is file size. The next one is history of the file. And then after one more attribute of the file is permissions. Permission of files. Yes, Srikanth, are you following? Permission of the file. Okay. So what are the kind of permissions we can get? See here, the readable or writable by the process before working with. Okay. Now see the functions here. See the functions here. Okay. Is readable. Is readable. See here. A test.txt is not readable. Okay. So whether this file is readable or not, we are checking. So this is the function. For this function, we have given the input. We are given the file as an input. Okay. This is being given input. Now this file is not readable. This file is not readable. So this is the way we can verify whether the file is readable or writable, like that. So that is the one attribute. Now next one, you have to identify if you wanted to identify the file or not. First of all, if you are unsure whether you are dealing with a file or not, if you want to identify, if you want to verify, you can use one more function called isFile. IsFile, like this. Is a directory. So like this, you can use some other functions to know that whether it is a file or not. Let's see this program here. You can see this program. Now see this. This is the method isFile. For this method, we are giving input. This is the input. The input is coming from here. This is a file, it's a variable. And for this is a file we are passing. So this file will be input to this method. Okay. Now see, tst test.txt is not a regular. It is showing like this. Yes, we can. Are you able to understand? Next one, directories. Next one, directories. See. Now, how to work with file system directories? Now, several different functions are available. PHP, please. Now, see here. This is one function, chdir. So, what this function does, it modifies the current directory. It modifies the current directory. And ch root will modify the root directory. And close directory, which closes the directory. Dir means it opens an instance of the directory. Like this, there are some functions are there in the PHP. These are all functions are there in the PHP, which will automate the functionality. Which will automate the functionality. Okay, that is the purpose of the PHP functions. Now, now getting information on the files. So if you wanted to get any information about the file, you can find out through some other functions again. Yes, see file owner, file group. If you wanted to find out, these are the functions. Now see here, these are the functions. File owner, file group. Okay. So who is the owner of this file? You can find out. See here, you have who is the group of the file, what is the group of the file, you can find out like that. These are the functions. By using this, we can find out the owners of the files. Okay. Then after that, file permissions, file permission. So this is one of the function. Then file type is one of the function. Okay. And file statistics is one of the function. Okay. Now file path is one of the function. Okay. Yeah. So these are all the functions. Base name, directory name. These are all the functions. By using these functions, we can find out the file stream. Reading the contents of the file. How to read content of the file? Now there is a function called file. File function is there. Let's see here. The file function is there. By using that file function, you can read the content of the file. Now opening and closing of the file. How to open and how to close the files here. Okay. That is one more kind of um, functions we can perform. Okay. Now these are how to close the file. You can simply use the close. Now reading and writing the files. Now to read and how to write the files, there are functions are there. For reading the files, these are the functions we have to read, we have to get and have to get. Okay, these are the functions. And these are the syntaxes. For reading the you have to read, the syntax is this. Read is that and which is some variable. Okay. These are the functions. F open is one more function. F gets is one more function. F gets is one more function. These are reading the file and writing file is also there. Writing file function also there. Okay, which is F write is there. Next one, overwriting file is also there. F write is okay. Overwriting. So these are all the uh, files related to the files related to the files and directories. This is about the unit 6. This is about the unit 6. And quickly you can take these questions. You take these questions. Then there are questions. Next one is unit 7. Next one is operations and directories. Operations and files and directories. Now these are the topics. The operations on the file, operations and files directories. These are the topics. So the topics are copying files, deleting files, deleting files, and how to work with the directories, the text editor. These are the topics. So these are the topics for reviewing, deleting, and how to work with the directories. Now you are building the text editor. How to build a text editor. These are the topics. Really, sir. Yeah. Now copying files. The copying files, you take this. The copying files syntax says copying files says say there is a syntax. So what is the copy function? The copy function is used to copy files from one location to the other location. There is a file location, and in the letter source, this is the destination. And this is the content, and this is the content. From here to here, if you wanted to copy the content, you can use this, a copy function. This function we can use. This function can be performed here. Now for this copy function, what you have to give, you have to give the source in string format. And you have to give the destination string format. Okay. And you have to give the context, okay, with the resource. And these are the input parameters you have to pass to copy function, so that it will transfer from one of the source to the destination. Source to the destination. Now there are three parameters, right? Which are three parameters? Source file is specified is a source, is a destination. A valid context source is what? No, this is the context. So the file is if written successfully, it will return that Boolean value, some Boolean values, whether true or false. Boolean values. If it is written true, that means successfully it is copied. If it is false, there is some error. Okay, that is the meaning. The next one example of PHP is the example code of the PHP, and at least that is also program syntax. Now see, this is the source, and that is the source of the file, this is the destination of the file. Now this is extension, and this is extension. Right. Now see the copy function here is a function. This function, this copy function, we are doing source. It's a source, it's a source file, and it's a destination. It's a destination file. So that is the way we have to write. So this is the destination. Okay. Now this is the copying of the file. Now renaming files, how to rename a file? How to rename a file? This is the rename function is there. Now to rename, from which name to which name you are renaming. This is our this is the same. This is from, and this is second. We have the context here. Context here. That is the rename. That's rename. which is the you have to specify in the union file. You specify in the union. That is one. Then after moving a file, so moving a file, you see this also nothing but moving a file from file. Here file we are giving the file we are giving in terms of the any extension or t extension, and this is the path. Okay. Now this is the renaming. Now here for each. This is the file type, and this is the path. So that is a new file path, and then after rename file path. So this is called rename. Then after deleting a file, deleting files, you can see this unbound. The function is used to delete a file. Now this is the function. Unlink is the function. And for this function, what we are giving file name, neighbor. Then we are giving context is another, and it will return the Boolean value. The Boolean values, you can say true for success and false for failure. Okay, so this unlike function reads the file successfully, and it will return the true value. Another way it returns false, returns false. That is the unlike function. The next example is there's an example here. Directories, how to work with the directories here. So how to work with the directories. So use a directory syntax, the directory function, the directory path, and more, and one flag here, the context. See here, a directory path is in order to create a new directory specified. So that we have to review. That is absolute path or relative path. Anything we can do. And the more specify the level on which we create a directory may be as a swing actual value. That is a more level. Further, the field has two values. The field has two values. One is and the other is. So this is. So it is similar like a unlinked function, but the context contains the string contain information about the protocol types. That is context. So the example here is the direct with an example is here is an example. Is a direct with in changes. Now listing next listing the contents of the directory. Now to list the contents of the directory here by using dir. And for this we are giving our context. Just we are giving context here. Okay. This program we observe, see here for the directory. This is the files. Is directory or not? We are checking. Then after that, we are going to open here. After that, close here. Now, change current directory. Change the current directory. Okay. CHDI one function. HDI one function. Then we have directory one more function here. So we'll change the root of the directory. Change the current directory. Now change the root directory path. This is a function. CHDI. Then after that, resetting the directory and how to reset the directory. Then for that, this is a one function. Resetting the directory. So how to build a text editor, let's say. How to build a text editor. So see here. So editing the text editor means here what we say for entering, editing here, or entering program for entering. is the one, editing is the one, storing is the one. So it is a collection of characters. And it's the numbers imported by its square. It's imported by the computer. It's important of the device. Uh, unit 7. Unit 7. There were some questions are there. So write a lot of property files. Write a program to property files. Write a program to the files in function. Okay, these questions can critically level text. 7. And for the introduction to databases and SQL. Take these topics. Take these topics. Done. Just take these topics to understand what is the SQL and database. Just note down the database in SQL. These are the topics in the database and SQL. See here, what are the how to decide, to store the data, and choosing how to store the data, what the type of data storage, and understanding the relational database, okay? And setting up MySQL, download MySQL, so verifying the installation MySQL, and it's an installation procedure. Okay, so this is all completely related to database and how to connect MySQL page to. So, these are the topics we'll discuss in this unit 8. Okay. So deciding how to store data. Question is, so how to store data, how to decide how to store data. Yeah. Yes, see, every day the companies collect a great deal of lot of data they will collect for it. For providing insight into your business, they are able to completely reduce costs. So run the company process. But the organization cannot function without managing and storing the data. So we are collecting the data, it is okay. The companies are collecting the data, it is okay. But after collecting data, they have to manage it, and they have to store the data. So that can be stored in a variety of ways. That can be stored in variety of so many ways that can be stored. So some cases, the data what we collect is not necessary for the proper operations of our business. Okay. So when we collect data, it may not be suitable for our business. So likewise, so business they are unable to function without data. Okay. They will not perform any function without it. Okay. So that's why it is essential to choose a suitable method for storing and protecting data. Many business firms they cannot perform any kind of activity or task without data. Okay. To perform them, so they need to find out the suitable methods to store and protect the data. Now there are the well, data storage requirement in terms of functionality. Okay. So what are the data storage requirements? See, we should consider the data that will be stored first. But first we have to consider what kind of data we want and which data format will we be using and how large will the entities be. Okay. So knowing the amount of overall storage space required is very low. And we can maintain it as a single document, but it's not the only choice we have. It can only be divided into several forms. So not in single form we are storing the data, we are in several forms. So there is need to be determined the data relationship are important and what kind of relationship they are. If the relationship is very important. They're one to one, or one to many, or many to many. What kind of relationship are they? We have to identify. Now, the choice of consistency model, concurrence, concurrence mechanism, okay, or whether the data storage solution will perform ETL functions, okay, in order to move data from one store to the other. So, how long your data life cycle will be? These are all factors you have to consider when you're storing the data. Because the factors you have to consider. The technical requirements here is what are the technical requirements? You decided which software to purchase. The next point is now we should keep in mind the performance and scalability. So when you're purchasing the software, first we need to find out what is the software you need to purchase. And whether the software is having performance and scalability only. A certain level of performance of storage some data. Okay. So this is one point you have to consider. Next one, security of the data. There's a one point you have to consider. In the process of management, what kind of process management? Okay, the infrastructure, IaaS, PWS, ASWS, these are the next one cost you have to consider. So these are all factors you have to consider for the data storage requirement. Next, types of data storage. Types of data storage. So that means database is one we can store database. A database are like, we can use SQL, we can use NoSQL, okay? We can use NoSQL, we can use a database also we can use. Okay? the purpose system, which is data warehouse. You can use the data model. Okay. Then you can use the data lake. Data lake we can use. So these are the types of data storages. Understanding the relational database is data organization is in relational database. See here. So in terms of relational database, there is an RDBMS. RDBMS is there. How the RDBMS what you see here in table part. This is a table. The table, this is called row. The row we are calling is a tuple. And this is a column. With a column. The column is an attribute. Okay. The column is an attribute. Okay. Now this is the relation. This table shows what there is the relationship between tuple and attribute. Rows and columns. That means you take example here. You take table. Now this is a table, customer table. This is one more table, transaction table. Now this is a record row. One, two, three, three records. These are the columns. One, two, three. That is the table size is 3 by 3. Okay. Now this is one, two, three, four. This is 4 by 4. Here, this is a column. Customer ID is a column. Company name is a column. Company address is a column. This is a customer table. Now these are the values. Okay. Here customer ID is called primary key. Customer ID is called primary. In the transaction table, this transaction table is one column. Customer ID is one column. Transaction amount is one column, and the payment amount is one column. Now, see here, in customer ID, in customer table, this is primary. This is primary. But the same customer ID in another table, it is called, because from one table to another table it is going, so it is called foreign. So this is a relationship. So the relationship is established by using the primary key and foreign key relationship. Foreign key, foreign key. So now the customer ID can get the details from the customer table. Okay. This is a relationship. Now take this table. Take this table, you will understand it. Just note it down the table. The next one is database schemas. Database schemas. The schema means here design. Schema means what here? Okay. Now the design can be designed by using two formal languages. One is DDL, okay. One is DDL, one is DNL. So DDL is a data definition language. DNL is data manipulation. Okay, there are some keywords are there. The keywords we will discuss. Means inside commands, the keywords. Create command, set alter, take, rename. These are the commands. Now, what is the advantage of the relational database is one advantage is flexibility. We have a lot of flexibility with the relational database. So one flexibility is the DDL. So that is built into SQL and can be used to create tables. Okay. This DDL provides capability to add new columns, new table, rename, relationship, and other changes. Okay. So this is more flexibility in the relational database. So the flexibility is coming with the DDL. The next one is reduce redundancy. This means reduce redundancy. Yeah, redundancy means here duplicate. Redundancy means what? Duplicate. Redundancy means duplicate. Okay. That it is eliminated, the redundancy, the duplicate can be eliminated in relational database. So if any table is having a duplicate entries, duplicate records, duplicate records, that can be eliminated in relational database. We eliminate in relational database. And if you take any individual customer's information, which appears only in one place, okay, that is a single entry in the customer table. Okay, a link to the customer table will only to be stored in the order. So here, the duplicate can be removed by using the normalization. How to remove the redundancy? The redundancy can be removed by using the concept of normalization. So data is separated in order to avoid redundancy. So that's the way we can reduce the redundancy by using the normalization. So the flexibility we are getting through the DDL. The next one is easy of backup and disaster recovery. So we can take a backup, we can take a backup and recover. We can take a backup easily, and if anything is happened, we can take a data recovery. Okay, that is one of the advantages with the relational database management system. Now setting up MySQL. Now we have to install MySQL. So all of you install in your computer MySQL you can install. So with the following instructions. So you set up the MySQL for this. So these are the system must meet the following requirements. Yes, system must meet the following requirements. Not to work with MySQL. In MySQL setup, then we require department name 4.5, then we require Visual C++ distribution, and we require at least 4 GB RAM. We have to download the MySQL. You can download the MySQL from open source repository. You can install the MySQL in Windows. Install it will take a little bit time. Will take a little bit time, but all of things make sure that you can install completely. These are steps or installation procedures. These are installation procedures. Installation procedures. installation procedures. So by using these, we can take care of the username password finally. See this. Here we have to give the username and password your own. So with that, it will complete the setup. This is all. Now finally, you see here, you get a command prompt like this. Here finally you get a command prompt like this. MySQL and you enter the password. It will give the number like this. When you pass this command, show databases, it will show all of the database which are inside the uh, MySQL. So these are the command. This is the command you have to apply. Okay. So this is the MySQL installation procedure. Now, what are the features of the MySQL you see? The features are it is simple to use. Simple to use. It is secure. It is open source. Okay. MySQL is a free of charge, and you can download from the official MySQL website without having any to pay. That is one. Then after the scalability is there, okay, then it's very fast. Then a high degree flexibility is there. Compatible with a wide range of operating system. Okay, we can compatible with any kind of operating system here. You can use Linux, you can use Windows, you can use Solaris, okay, you can use AIX. So like this, you can use any operating system. It will work. Then we can roll back the compat capability, then the efficiency of memory, the productivity, high levels, platform independent, partition, which is support for UIs, graphical user interface, and it's a real password support. So these are all the features of the MySQL. Now to connect the MySQL from the PHP. From the PHP, if you wanted to connect, you have to follow some sequence. You have to follow some sequence. So yeah, this is a program to connect MySQL from the PHP. So use this program. With this program, you can connect to the MySQL to the PHP. Now, these are the questions from this unit. So how to store data, then how to the relational database, you have to write some few words, then how to install the MySQL, then how simple PHP script to connect with MySQL, and connecting to MySQL with an example. These are some important questions in this unit. Then after unit 9 is talking about how to retrieve data from the MySQL with PHP. How to retrieve data from MySQL with the PHP. Now this the content is that this object is not on the 3 lines of the content we will discuss. Now see what is setting up the some local database, then a few data with select statement and record viewer. These are the topics of this unit 9. Easy. How setting up bootclub database. So you want to set up one database. So how do you set up one database here? You see. connect to MySQL, to PHP, and perform the actions in the database. So in order to create a database in MySQL, how to create a database in MySQL, just to open the MySQL. Using some commands, you can connect to the MySQL database. So first log into MySQL as a root and new database or database. In the previous unit, we have seen the screenshots, the root username and password. With that username password, you can connect to the database. If the database is not there, you have to create the database with this syntax. The syntax. You can say create database. Okay. If not exist, database is not there. You have to use this create database. Database. Okay. This is the line you have to write to create the database. An example here, create database books club. So in that it will create a database with this name the books club. Okay. Now after that, how to create a table? How we can create the table? There is a command, there is a syntax. Now here create is one command. Then after that table is one command. And it's a table. The table name, we can give any table name. After that, parenthesis open and parenthesis close. Then I have to put semicolon. Then after that, column one, for that column, you have to provide the data type. The second column, you have to provide the data type. Third column, you have to provide the data type. And after the data type, you have to provide the size. For the data type, you have to provide the size. So this is the syntax to create the table. Example you see here. Example you see, create table numbers. Here, after that, this is a column name. Member ID is a column name. And vector is the data type. This 20 is the size. Yes, column data type. For that size you have to use. Next one, member name is one more column name. Vector is a data type. The 25 is the size. After that, contact number is a column name. And int is a data type. Okay, it is data type. Then after this, now with this, the table will be created. With this, the table will be created. Now like this. This is the syntax. The table will be created. We have to close the parentheses and semicolon. Now after this table is created, we have to insert the values. We have to insert. This table is created with the schema column. How many columns here? Member ID is one column and member name is one column and the contact number is one more column. So this is a member ID, this is a member name, and this is a contact number. This is the three columns. So for the three columns, how many records you want to enter, you can enter. Okay, this is the way. So insert the values into this table number. This table is what? This is schema design. Design of whom is the design of the table name is what members. The table name is what members. Okay, that is a table. Okay, after that we have to insert the values. We have to insert the values. Now to insert the values, there is one more syntax there. Now see here insert into is a keywords, and the table name. These are the table and three columns. Then for values, the values you can enter three values. So as many columns are there, that many values you have to enter. Now, this is remaining all topics. So tomorrow we will discuss. Tomorrow class, you will have to create insert the remaining data, DCL comments, or discussing tomorrow class.